Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Elta7, a twin-stick roguelike shmup. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Bluesped Studio, Elta7 released to the Nintendo Switch in January of 2023. It had previously released for mobile and PC via Steam in October of 2021. Now, this title is one that, because the concept seemed interesting, I gave it a try despite having some misgivings after reading the eShop page. And I can definitely say at this point, don't follow my example. This is one that I think is a very, very safe pass, as the game itself has some issues and just generally isn't very good. The concepts are promising, but the execution doesn't quite make it. So with all that said, let's dive into the game and you can kind of see for yourself. So the main menu is fairly bare bones. There's not a whole lot under settings. You can turn on or off the music and the sound, and there's a few difficulty settings. That's basically it. You can also change the language. There are a decent amount of options there. So then we're left with new game or continue. So new game, of course, will start you at the very beginning. Continue almost feels like the exact same, as this is a rogue light. There are elements where you'll get some carryover from one run to the next, but sometimes it just seems like it takes those away and resets you almost arbitrarily. So at the beginning of the game, you do have this shop, and I don't really remember where I got the money that I have, but if you're continuing a run and you have money, then you can go and buy some of the items that are available here. So most of the upgrades will either be defense or attack up. So the helmets will increase your defense, the swords or crossed bullets, I guess, will increase your attack, and then there's also the ability to restore health. There's also this guy at the beginning. Do you have nothing to say to me before you leave? Well, let's talk to him. And this is like one problem. There's not a whole lot of dialogue, but then this one, I'm not controlling the speed, it's just going through things automatically. And basic story, we're just resisting a Skynet, an enemy named Skynet, and well, let's see what's going on. Then at the beginning of your run, you also have an enhancement you can select, and this will be random, and we've got some wonderful options to choose from here. So this is a futuristic shoot 'em up that is very much in the sci-fi vein, not sci-fi fantasy. So some of the icons don't really match like the magic power there with the axe or the base blessing. Actually, of these options here, the base blessing does seem pretty good. Reduce damage by half after taking damage, so that way you're not taking as much. We could also increase our movement speed or the bullet range. So control-wise, this is a twin stick. So you have your movement on your left stick and the aiming of the stick the aiming of your weapon on the right stick. The game does use an auto-fire mechanic, however, so that's something to keep in mind. And not only does it use auto-fire, it also uses auto-aim, kind of pointing to what would likely be a mobile or having its development based in mobile, as those would be mechanics you would see on a mobile shoot 'em up. But you can control where you shoot using the right stick if you're not happy with where the game is choosing to auto-aim. So as far as some mechanics are concerned, you start off with a single weapon, and throughout the course you'll potentially get an option and a secondary weapon. And you can always see those by pressing the left bump, which takes you to this equipment screen. And here we can see some of the neat elements of the gameplay itself, where you have the ability to upgrade your weapons or switch weapons. So we have a common gun and a scatter gun available right now, and we can switch between them. It's also possible, if you have enough coins, that you can upgrade those weapons as well for more power and speed. There are some translation issues, so I'm not 100% what they mean by plus 25% hurt. I'm assuming they mean damage, but it's hard to say. then you can see the other items we have here. So we don't have an option, but that would be what would be displayed in this screen. And then for our secondary, we have the trace missile, basically your homing missile. So continuing on, upgrading our weapon actually made our common gun like pretty decent. It actually gave us a wave shot every second or so. But it'd be nice if you could see some damage totals, just so you know actually what you're doing, rather than just having the various elements of your damage and defense and all that, like, kind of being relatively nebulous. Another thing that is interesting in this game is, so it's procedurally generated. The game will have several different rooms that are common per the stage, but the order in which you encounter them and the enemies within might be in a different order. So like in this stage, for example, or this room, for example, there's that hand that was trying to grab us, and that could be towards the beginning of the stage, and as in this case, or it could come more frequently than not at the end of the stage. And you can kind of see what's coming by pressing the R bump, and it gives you the zoomed out view. It does pause the gameplay, so you don't have to worry about being damaged here, but there are some particle effects that are still moving, which is interesting. So the game itself kind of has a stuttery performance, especially when you have a lot of particles on there, like destroying these block walls. We know that Unity games can perform pretty well on the Switch, so it's a little sad that that's the case, but that is just simply the way it is. Some of the mech design is something I quite like, but the base ship, the Elta7, so that's where the name comes from, is kind of confusing. It looks like a drone carrying around a cocoon with a gun. It's a bit of a weird design. So throughout the course of your run, you will come to shops, and one of the first things you have is this enhancement. So you can increase your attack, your defense, or your life. So I haven't actually tried increasing my life when we've been at or near max life. Hopefully this will increase our maximum limit, but previously it had just increased the amount of life we had, not so much where we were at. It overfilled us, but it didn't increase our limit, so that's a bit disappointing. So once again, we're back at the shop, and we can pick up this iron arm guard, power crystal, or gold helmet. I haven't unfortunately had the chance to go and show some of the more hilarious mistranslations that are going on in the game itself. But there's certain scenarios where it's showing wood ring, and then it's showing a wooden shield as your potential upgrade, or some other just confusing translation issues along those lines. So after the shop in the first stage, through a normal run, normally you would pick up a chip that allows you to dash. So throughout the course of the gameplay on each of the stages, you'll have at least the first three, you'll have these chips which will basically enhance your ship. So the first one you get is the ability to dash. Then we also have the protect chip, which gives you a shield that will recharge over time once you use it, and a burst chip, which goes and increases your damage. So those are inconsistently taken away sometimes when you've continued. So on this continue, I still happen to have the speed chip, but in other situations that's simply not there. So when you defeat enemies, we're obtaining gold, and occasionally we're lucky enough to get an item similar to what we would buy in the shop, so like an iron helmet, that would increase our defense. So at this point, our defense is up to 21, but sadly we haven't gotten any attack-up items. Those do seem to be the more rare of your potential upgrades. As I say that, we actually get lucky and get an advanced chip, which does power up our attack. And that's basically kind of the gameplay loop of Elta7. So the game is based across a total of 5 stages, and the bosses at the end of the stages are well, interesting, like, to say the least. It's, like, not bad boss design, but some of the other elements of the game where you've got the auto, aim.
You don't know our power.
Well, here's the boss of the first stage. You don't know our power. The auto aim, let's see, can be both a blessing and a curse here. So the boss can't consistently take damage on all parts of it. So using the auto aim just to finish up the boss is a great way to take it out. The boss here also has a nice death hop, and that's the end of stage 1, the underground base. So as you can see here the other like 4 stages: mechanical channel, Still City, Fortress Battle, and the final stage, Skynet Core. Continuing, we're taken into the mechanical channel, and you get a shop at the beginning once again. So energy water, spirit pearl, and iron armor. I mean, without those like choices, I guess we'll take the spirit pearl, and once again another enhancement. Sure, this time let's go with, wasn't this the same as last time? The magical power. And that's basically Elta7 served up for your enjoyment. So this is definitely a game that I can safely recommend taking a pass on, as it just seems, I don't know, the ideas that they're like aiming for here I can see, and I appreciate the concept, but the execution just feels like it needed way more polish and well, playtesting, to be honest. You've got issues with poor performance. There's the like translation issues, both from your eShop store page and then throughout the course of the game itself. Then bizarrely enough, though I only like picked up the game this week, at this point in like on the towards the weekend, it appears to have been delisted from the Nintendo eShop, and I'm not certain as to why. So that's a potential issue. However, you can still pick up the game via Steam if this is one you're interested in checking out, but definitely do so only if this is really your cup of tea. As far as the plus flavors are concerned, I do like think the concept of making a roguelike shoot 'em up is always like well worth trying. It's just one of those things where the execution doesn't always work out. Well, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you for joining me. I hope you yourself have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.